Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Conscious Living Spirit Center. It is always good to be with you all once again to learn a bit about Spiritism, about ourselves, and about the laws that governs our world. We do hope everyone is well and healthy, your families are well and safe. And today, as we always do, we would like to start with our initial reading, followed by our prayer. And then we do have a very special guest, a very good friend of ours from Connecticut, Marcio Lazaro, and we'll talk about his lecture in a few moments. So we will do a reading from the book, Our Daily Bread, from Francisco Cândido Xavier and Emmanuel. And we are going to read the lesson 120 called Conciliation. And Emmanuel describes or explains and talks about a passage from the book of Matthew, from chapter 5, verse 25, when Jesus said the following: "Settle the matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still with him on the way, or he may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison." Many ennobled souls, after having received the exhortation from this passage, intimately suffer after stumbling across their former adversary of yesterday, who is inaccessible to any conciliation. The advice of the Master, notwithstanding, is a fundamental consolation to the individual conscience. Assert the words of the Master, settle matters, which is the equivalent of saying, do your part. Correct whatever you can with regards to errors of the past. Mobilize every effort to display your goodwill with perseverance. Insist on kindness and in comprehension. If the adversary is ignorant, meditate over the time in which you too were unaware of your primordial obligations, and observe if you as well did not act with worse characteristics. If he is perverse, classify him among the sick and demented on the road to being cured. Do as much as good as possible as long as you are walking on the same road. Because if the enemy is so implacable that he seeks you in order to turn you over to the judge, you will also have proof and testimonies to present. A legitimate trial includes all the pieces, and only the spirits that frankly are impenetrable to righteousness will undergo the rigors of the extreme justice. Always strive as much as possible for harmony, but if the adversary scorns your good efforts, settle matters yourself with your own conscience and wait confidently. And with these initial reflections, we would like to invite everyone to our initial prayer. So let us close our eyes, bringing our hearts and our minds together for this very few instants that we may remind ourselves of our immortal nature. Let us address the gratefulness that we feel in our hearts to God, our Creator, for the blessing of life in this new day, for the friends, family members, incarnated or discarnated, who always assist us and very much inspired us all to gather together here today. We ask to the good spirits who are with us to help us to absorb and understand and incorporate the lessons that we are going to receive this morning so that we can put them in practice every day, at all moments, in our homes, wherever we go. And we also ask with a special pledge to our beloved friend Marcio, in charge of the reflections that we are going to do together this morning. May he receive the peace and the inspirations and the tranquility he needs to share with us all that he prepared with so much care and so much love. And with that, we ask the permission to begin our humble meeting of today. Thank you, and so be it. And with that, dear friends, I would like to introduce our friend Marcio Lazaro from Connecticut, from the Allan Kardec Spirit Center. And Marcio is going to talk to us about mediumship. So Marcio, welcome. Thank you very much. And the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I hope you guys can hear me well. And would like to start by saying it is a real pleasure to be here today. And I would like to thank God and Jesus and also the benefactors, spirits, who are always inspiring us to follow the good path. We also like to recognize and say thank you for the invitation. It's a great opportunity to come here and have this talk. We take this with a great responsibility. We thank everyone also who contribute for us to be here, and for you to be that's watching and either now or later, because this will be available. So thank you for watching, and we take this very seriously, and as it is, and we always should have fun. However, this is not a time for entertainment. And we take this very serious because here we feel like we are ambassadors, spiritist ambassadors. We're not here to talk about what personally we think about a subject, but how we understand this subject based on spiritism. So, in summary, I would like you to enjoy this time as much as we do, saying that we take this subject, specifically today, mediumship, with great responsibility. And thanks everyone who contribute, and for you that is watching, it is really a pleasure to be here. And we will talk about this topic that is so important, and is actually in one of the books of the codification, the Spiritist codification. This book is was published in 1861, and if you don't know, but just to remind you, it is 1861. And I know when you read it, and if you haven't read, so please take this as an invitation for you to read this book. It is fantastic, and you will find in this book so many great things that you may question yourself. When was this really published? 1861. So, with that, you will see that all the understanding and the teachings and lessons and within this book, it's really beyond that time. It's actually beyond our time now. And to the point that we still need to study this book with attention, with really dedication. And this is actually the second book of the whole codification. So the first one was the Spirit's book. The second is this Medium book, the Medium's book. And there are 32 chapters, and they are divided in two sections. The first section is basically an overview of Spiritism and discussions of the many theories that's used in Spiritism. The second section, it's basically a detailed classification of the phenomena and also descriptions of the mediumship. But it also contains serious warnings against the use or the misuse of mediumship, which is very, very important for everyone that is interested on this topic. Then it and somehow shows some type of manifestation or is involved or exposed to some of these manifestations in the mediumship. And why we talk about mediumship in Spiritism? Well, mainly because it's within one of the main principles. So you all know, and if we don't, we can go through it, and you can find these main principles in the Spiritist codification. But basically, when the spirits say the spiritual world exists, and spirits exist, and human beings are spirit incarnated in a material body or in the flesh, and also when the spirit says that we are in constant relationship, human beings and spirits, or those that are discarnated, are in constant relation. So that's what applies to mediumship. And we can always rely to, and we should never forget, that Jesus is the best guide and model for all humankind, because he also applies in mediumship. So with this introduction, and we should then go a little bit and into the concepts, right, of the mediumship. But before we go that, I just want to say a few words that mediumship is not really something that only exists in Spiritism. And actually, Spiritism didn't introduce mediumship. We can see these examples through history. So Moses went to the tent and heard a voice of one speaking to him. And this is described in the Numbers, the book of Numbers in the Old Testament. Also, there's an example in Deuteronomy that when he say that Moses prohibit the communication with the spirits. Well, if somebody is prohibiting something, it's very likely because that something is happening, right? Also, we have examples in the New Testament when Jesus talked to Eli and Moses on the mountain, or when he expels the spirits or the evil spirits. Also, outside the Christian world, Muslims believe that the Quran was orally revealed by God to Muhammad by the Archangel Gabriel. And more recently, Joan d'Arc was directed by his spirit guide in order to play a very important role in the French army. So we do have these many examples of the relationship, of the communication between these two worlds, the spiritual world and the material world. And with that, we go into the general concepts. The general concepts is very important because we need to understand where those words are coming from. And the word medianimic actually comes from the Latin word median, which means intermediate, and anima or soul, right? And this is related to the special faculty of being an intermediate between the incarnated and disincarnated. The word mediumship is the exercise of that faculty. And we should then study the different ways of how this faculty is exercised. So, the median, now here talking about the person. The median, we have basically two concepts here. One that is general or broad, that is everyone with any degree influenced by the spirits is a medium. This faculty is inherent to humankind. Therefore, it does not constitute a privilege. So, in the question 459 of the Spirits book, Kardec asked the spirits, do spirits influence our thoughts and actions? And the answer, known by many, is they often direct both. Their influence is so great, it's more than what you think, because very often it is they who guide you. So, in some way, we are all in communication or in interaction with the spirit world. And using this concept, the broad concept, everyone is a medium. Nevertheless, the restricted concept or the specific concept of the medium, it is the person who is the interpreter or is the intermediate between the material world and the spirit's world. So it's the interpreter. And although in this concept is only applicable to people whose faculty shows itself clearly and with some intensity, producing well marked results. So, in one way, everyone is a medium, but in a specific way, only few people will be a medium, and we will see how this mediumship is exercised because of the level. So we see on the level of mediumship, it can be sublime and exists or functions without an apparent manifestation, but it can be ostensive as well. And here is evident to the medium who can either be conscious, so he knows what is happening, or semi-conscious. It's kind of having idea but not really fully conscious, or completely unconscious during the manifestation. So the media would not have an idea what's happening during the manifestation. And continue on the types of mediumship, then we do have a lot of classification that is all described in the medium's book. And I invite you to that's curious about and wants to learn more to really deep dive into this book and then have contact and learn more about this, because of course here we're just kind of introducing the topic. I'm sure you can find these classes in your center, but it's always important to remember everyone when we go and study this book. It's much better, and it's actually highly recommended that we do this as a group. So it's better to do in the Spirit Center and as a group. But here we have the type of mediumships, physical mediumship, that is a kind of creates a physical phenomenon and can be like, for example, the table tapping, levitation, and something like in the physical and the material level. We also have what is seen as a clear feeling or clairsenses, for example. So the medium has the ability to sense the emotions and the feelings around them or from their spirits, right? We also have clairaudience or clear hearing. The medium actually hear messages. The messages they receive are telepathic, meaning that the spirits will talk to them via thought. Can be clear seeing as well. So the mediums will actually see images in their mind, and they see colors, shapes, objects, pictures. They basically can see the spiritual world. It can be a channeling mediumship or through voice and writing, where the medium here will allow their mouths or hands or both to be used to deliver message through speaking and writing. Most of them will feel that their body is taking over by the spirits they are channeling. And we also have the healing mediumship, which consists mainly on the ability to heal by simple touch, by looking, or sometimes even with a gesture, without the assistance of any medication. So now we go into the types of medium. And here we go into a mechanical or a passive, also described as passive, the medium is nor aware of what he, in this case, he or she, writes. So it's a completely unconscious state. It can be semi mechanical or semi passive. The medium participates, is aware of he or she writes. It can be intuitive. The medium receives a thought from the spirit and transmits it. Right? The medium in this case is aware about what the medium is writing, but he is not expressing his own thought. Or it can be inspired, which is distinctive from the intuitive. It is much less sensitive. It is hard actually to distinguish the proper thought or the thought from the medium from the one that is suggested, because it gets very confused on where you draw the line, what is from the medium, what is from the spirit. It is called inspire. And it's also included here people that without unusual intelligence or unusual capacity, they have a flash of intellectual lucidity that gives them a momentary unusual easy of conception. We see and we use these words a lot. I was inspired, or somebody that I know was inspired, but this was so unusual because they didn't show any type of um, ability to come up with that idea, or sometimes a song, an art, a poem, something like this. So these are the type of mediums and the types of manifestations. And it's important for us also to be able to identify how this mediumship manifests and how it's exercised. So in the identification, unfortunately, until today, there's no diagnostic that can be inferred that someone has that faculty. It does not depend on place, age, social condition, or gender. It can appear during childhood, adolescence, or even a material age. If it manifests itself in the spirit center, at home, or any other religious temple, or even in a person with strong materialistic inclinations. So it's not really linked to any particular philosophy or religion. And the signs of this manifestation can be many. Actually, in the Spirit's book or in the Media's book, Kardec will say that they may vary to the infinite because it can be an unexpected emotion reaction. It can be apparent sickness, shivers, moral or physical indispositions, excessive irritability. All this can be signs of the mediumship that is happening or is starting to manifest itself. Of course, we need to look at this with cautious, right? Because it's not just because I am not feeling well or I'm somehow mad that I'm now manifesting mediumship, right? It's not just because I'm irritated, impatient, that I now should put the reason in the mediumship. That's not the case. We need to look at this as a whole situation in terms of then inquire that this might be a mediumship. Of course, in a lot of cases, we will see that people will come to this conclusion very fast, but this is very dangerous to do, to come to conclusions that are normally in a few minutes. And a lot of times you will see, you'll come across examples that people really have physical conditions that are called mediumship, when in reality that person really needs help from a doctor. So continue that we go through a little truths about mediumship. that not everyone possesses the same level of involvement. Experience is acquired through many incarnations, and it varies from individuals to individuals. There must be an attunement between the medium and the communication spirit. It's not that the medium will be able to communicate with the same level with all the spirits. It must have an attunement. So the spirit and the incarnated person, or the incarnated spirit, or the medium must be in the same tune in order for a proper mediumship phenomenon. Neither magic formula nor special rituals will lead to the blossom of mediumship. It constitutes a manner of entering in communication with spirits. Nothing really too complex in this concept, although what happens, of course, it can get very complex in how we explain and understand, but it's nothing really that much beyond that. The level of respect and the intensity of devotion that the medium dedicates to the task is what it will be used to appraise them. The level of mediumship is not related to the medium's moral or intellectual involvement. This is a very important concept because we tend to misunderstand, because a medium can produce great phenomena, so great amount of work, that we then start to think that everything that that person will say, it is moral elevated. No, we see examples of people manifesting great examples of mediumship, and their practice is actually very, very dangerous to themselves and also for those who are then start to follow in their directions. Because good mediums are those in tune with good spirits, not those that produce great phenomena. This is a very important point. Good mediums are those in tune with good spirits. And a good spirit will never push somebody or suggest something that will let you on the wrong path. Good spirits will never do bad. So let's continue now into where mediumship is located. So the location of the mediumship is actually in the physical body, which will easy to partial the emancipation of the perispirit. So the spirit of the medium recovers perceptions and spiritual faculties that are usually blunted by the material body. And we will see later on um, how we can understand better where this faculty is located in ourselves. But before we go into that, we need to take a little pause here and understand a little bit about the elements of the universe. And in the Spirit's book, Kardec asked this question: are there two general elements of the universe, matter and the spirit? And the answer of the elevated spirit was yes, and God, the creator of all things, and is above them. Then these three elements are the principle of all that exists, the universal Trinity. And here I put it a schematic representation. This representation is not in the Spirit's book. It is our interpretation of this answer. So here you see God above all, and spirit and matter. But matter has different ways of presenting itself. So it's not just the things that we can feel or we can smell or can touch. There are matter that very many different ways of manifest itself and organizations. So to the point that here in the Spirit's book continue, the Spirit will then um, help us to understand that the spirit, it is the intelligent principle of the universe. Intelligence is an essential attribute of the spirit, but intelligence is not the spirit. In matter, it exists in several states, including those so ethereal and subtle that escapes entirely our sense of perception. Mm. You may recognize this um, representation here, and I purpose cut in the middle, and we will see what it is. But here, representing on the left, you will see what is the spirit, and on the right, you will see what represents the matter or our corporeal body. But the perispirit is something that is very important for the manifestation of mediumship. And here is we need to understand a little bit what is the perispirit. And the perispirit is kind of a link in between the spirit and the physical body. So Kardec, in this fantastic book, the Spirit's book, went through asking this question, and he asked, "Is the spirit uncovered, or it is enveloped in a substance of some kind, as postulated by some?" And when he say as postulated by some, because this concept of having something more than the spirit and the body was already part of our human um, understanding that something else exists. So the Egyptians thought they gave it a name and understand it in one way. Some other cultures will understand in some other ways. So that's what Kardec was here saying as postulated by some, because somehow the concept was already part of our understanding. Nevertheless, the spirits responded very, very clear about in saying that the spirit is enveloped in the vapor substance as you perceive it. And of course, the answer continues. But then when Kardec comments on that, he says this: as the seed of a spirit is surrounded by perisperm, the spirit is surrounded by an envelope that, by analogy, may be called a perispirit. And that is when he gave the name perispirit for this link between the physical body and the spiritual body. And here I want to warn you that this illustration is not in the spirit codification. It is the understanding of that explanation that made people um, create this illustration to help us understand, because pictures sometimes may say 1,000 words. So here, um, in this representation on the left, you see a fruit. It's actually an avocado, but you see that the skin, the perisperm, or what we normally eat, and the seed, and that is equivalent in ourselves. A seed will be equivalent to the spirit. The perispirit, or what we eat, will be equivalent to the perispirit. So the perisperm is equivalent to a perisperm, and the skin is our physical body. Therefore, we incarnated here on flesh are constituted by these three parts: the spirit, the perispirit, and the physical body. And it's with that that we can say that the perispirit is the envelope of the soul. During incarnation, it serves as the link or intermediate between the incarnated spirit and the matter or flesh. During erraticity, or in the period between incarnations, or as we may say, when we are in the spiritual world, the perispirit continues with the spirit, and it constitutes the spirit's fluid body. And it acts as an intermediate to transmit and receive thoughts. So every communication that happens between an incarnated spirit and a discarnated spirit will happen through the perispirit at that level. So that is what is important for us to understand the importance of the perispirit and also what it is, to study the different shapes and forms it can. It's very kind of a fluid in that sense, but it's important for us to understand and study perispirit as well as we go through the understanding and study of mediumship. And continue with that, we can also now go back to specifically to mediumship and talk about the appearance of mediumship. When it shows up, when it manifests, how is it done, right? So it can be spontaneously. It will not generate great discomfort when that happens. This discomfort can be either physical or emotional. So the medium will not show really a discomfort when this mediumship is um, it's it's kind of like coming up this exercise, but it can also be as a trial. And in that case, the media will experience emotional imbalance that will reflect in their physical body. Because remember, the perispirit is the link between the spirit and the physical body. So any influence or any communication and act on the perispirit will automatically reflect in the physical body, right? And therefore, this spiritual disturbance can occur. And here, of course, it is important for us to point out that we should not be kind of putting things in boxes and as we like to somehow separate things. Because then when we can say, oh, if somebody's mediumship is spontaneous, it means that that person is elevated. And if it's a trial, so this is an is expiation, right? Because it's showing emotional imbalance. Let's not go into that because we never really know how to sort things in the proper way. So before we go into judgment, we should help whoever is going through this experience and help them understand what is going on, give them the tools that with all our abilities that will help us, will help them to take good use of it, because from that it doesn't really matter if it's a spontaneous or if it's a trial, but it will help them, and by helping them you will be also helping other people, because the function or the goal of the mediumship, it is really to help others, to help ourselves and helping others. So before we go into a judgment, and start to sort things out, we should be careful in trying to help the person that is manifesting that, because a lot of times we will encounter people who are having these experience but may not know what is going on, right? So and in this development we have to be very careful how is this is done, either if it's happening with ourselves or if it's happening with those who we love, but also if it's helping is happening to someone that comes to the spirit center. So we have to remember a few things, and in the medium's book we will see this very clear, that Kardec and the elevated spirits will go through the how dangerous it is if mediumship is misused. So, under no circumstance, and here we um, highlight the word no, the two words no circumstance. On the original, you will not see this highlighted, but we thought that this is important, so we highlighted here. Under no circumstance should mediumship development be attempted through the aid of organizations that promise fast and amazing results in just few lessons. It is irresponsible to push for development if the person does not have any inclination to study the subject in the books that comprise the spirit codification. The individual who is determined to put mediumship ability into practice, once he has appeared must bear in mind the significance of this faculty. And although the mediumship may start at early age, it is inconvenient, in other words, dangerous, to stimulate or develop the exercise in mediumship in children. Right? And here, let's not get confused. If it starts during childhood, we will work with it, but we should not stimulate or develop the exercise in children. And in the book from André Luiz, in the domain of mediumship, there is a description of a purpose of, of mediumship, which is very, very nice. So this book was wrote by André Luiz and Francisco Cândido Xavier, and it says that Spiritism has come as a framework to guide mediumship by discipline and conducting it for the general good. We need Spiritism in order to control the medianimic energy in favor of our evolution, as we control the electricity for the benefit and comfort of our civilization. And in here, in this instruction, we will see that touches on the concept that mediumship was not invented or discovered by Spiritism. It was well understood by Spiritism, but not invented, neither discovered. Mediumship, as we know, exists as far as we can go in human history. Nevertheless, Spiritism will give us the tools to control this energy in our favor and in favor of our evolution, not to take advantage from others, but in favor of our spiritual evolution, as, and here is an analogy, we control the electricity for the benefit and comfort of our civilization. And it's also very important to remember one thing, that is mediumship and Jesus. We say it, one of the principles of Spiritism is that Jesus is the guide, is the guidance that we should always follow. And how is mediumship and Jesus then? So, did Jesus talk about mediumship? Well, if you remember well, he made many references to mediumship when he talked to Eli and Moses on the mount, when he expelled the evil spirit, when he encouraged the disciples to heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, and to raise the dead. But he also recommend freely you have received, freely you give. So in Spiritism, and here we're not talking about other philosophies, we are talking about Spiritism. If you manifest mediumship, take this really seriously. Freely you have received, freely you give. In other words, to be completely honest and clear with the words, no charge, no monetary gain, no free lunch, because we all know there is no such thing as free lunch. And let's be careful, because sometimes we find many ways of doing things in our interest. So we may not receive cash of monetary benefits. Nevertheless, we receive advantages, recognition, other things that is kind of like making ourselves feeling better, feeling good, and we can go to others and say, look, I didn't receive any money from this. So therefore, it is I'm giving for free, but in reality, you're receiving something back. So we have to be very careful when we go and follow Jesus' footsteps, and then we cannot just choose the parts that are very convenient to us. When he said and recommend, freely you have received, freely you give, that applies here as well. And as in essence, mediumship must be always accompanied by inner improvement, because only the medium's improvement will enable the spirit to manifest in a better way. And this is from Francisco Xavier, who said those words. And really is a nice summary, because the mediumship should be always for the spirits, for spiritists, should be always be with Jesus. Again, mediumship and spiritism should be always with Jesus. It is to take it with responsibility and faith. When Jesus told them the parable about the need to pray at all times and not to lose heart, it is to level ourselves with others. If anyone desires to be the first, he must be the last of all and servant of all. It is to do good, expecting nothing in return. So remember when he said, your charitable deeds must be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. And it's to do with others. It's not by being isolated or being doing avoiding other people, especially those that might remind you that you are getting out of track. And it is is to be with continuous self-improvement, and to understand what it is, to know what it is, to study what it is. Because when Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, as in John 8:32, if I remember correct, this is very important that we do study and we do know about the teachings, about the lessons, and mediumship is also one of them. So for us here in America, and actually all over the world, there are a lot of material that we can use to study this great faculty, mediumship. And one may say, oh, the majority of the books are in another language, are in Portuguese. I don't have that much access to, therefore, I am go and practice or start doing without really guidance. Well, you will be surprised, and you guys may know because you guys have a lot of access to books in English, but you will find all these books that talk about mediumship. The Medium's book, the Spirit's book, in the domain of mediumship, disobsession, obsession, um, general getting to the light, is spirited terrible for disconnected spirits. This other book here, very also very nice, talking to spirits in mediumistic meetings. And there are many others, so that you can always go to. And remember, the medium's book is kind of like the, if you want to learn and know about mediumship, this is the book you need to study. But don't study by yourself. Do it in the center with others. There are spirits, spiritual centers that offer these classes. Nowadays, we kind of don't have that option of not saying, "Oh, I don't have the opportunity to go because I don't have anything near me." Because nowadays we're doing a lot of things virtually, and these study groups may be available to you. But don't get too much caught into the phenomenon itself, Because even Kardec, when writing the Spirit's book and other books, in particular, this quote is in the Spirit's Voyage of 1962. He said something that is really, really important to remember. That is, the most important thing in Spiritism. It is that it is not the mediumistic phenomena, but its principles and its moral consequence. So it's not just the phenomena itself, it's not just the manifestation, because this can really impress, especially for those who are not necessarily understanding everything that goes behind the scene and would not know a lot about the spiritual world. They can really be impressed by some of these phenomena. Nevertheless, the most important thing in Spiritism, and it's important for us to have this in our heart as Spiritists, and also to be able to pass this along to any fellows, any friends that might be interested in this subject, that this most important thing, it is not the mediumistic phenomena, but its principle and its moral consequence. And with that, we conclude today's talk, and is it and we understand that for some of you this might be basic, and it is intended to be basic because these basic principles sometimes get um, blur into our daily lives and our spirit centers and our studies. It is important for us to be talking to people when we explain what a spiritism is for people that are not really aware what it is, especially in this country, because sometimes people will never heard about it, and they will be honestly asking you what it is. It is important for us to be able to explain in simple words what is mediumship, what is the consequence, what is happening, what is the purpose, and guide them a little through this process if they're showing any manifestation. Because remember, this is not exclusive to Spiritist Center. It's not exclusive to Spiritists, the people really to that identify themselves with Spiritism. And with that, I would like to conclude by saying thank you for all of you guys, for your patience, for the invitation of the Spirit Center. I really like, I don't want to say any names, but I really have a lot of good feelings for some of you guys that I know personally, some of you that I do not know personally. I look forward for the opportunity that we may have in the future, that the next time that I go to Florida, I will have the opportunity to stop by, not necessarily for a talk, but for an opportunity to see you guys in person. Thanks a lot.
Marcio, thank you very much. It will be our pleasure to see you again in person when the time comes, after all these passes, of course. But thank you so much. I think you hit some very critical points for us, right? Especially knowing that we are all mediums living in this planet, and if we neglect the need for understanding about mediumship, the benefits, the duties, the responsibilities, and the dangers, our lives becomes much more complicated, right? And you said it very well. Living here, the reminder for everyone that we have study groups online here, and I'm sure the Allan Kardec Spirit Center in Connecticut has also their own online study groups over there. We invite everyone to check our website or Facebook page and join us. If you never joined a Spirit study group before, it's free. You can join and take a peek and drop off at any minute. You have no obligation. Check it out. Ask your questions. It's a great opportunity for us to learn together. And Marcio, I just want to say there's lots of friends here giving you a shout out. Juan de la Riva, Candido, Kyle Santos, Susana, Andrea Marshall, all saying hi and appreciating you being here with us. So thank you.
Oh, thanks a lot. And just want to add something when you guys talk about the study groups and the importance of the study books groups, because in this type of lecture or talk, one is talking, like now I'm talking, and everybody else is just listening. They might participate with a question or comment here in the chat, but they're not really participating that much. Nevertheless, in the study group, you have the opportunity to learn, to help others, to participate in a more active way. So, really, this is kind of almost like an invitation for you to join a study group. And as you guys offer that, that is fantastic. Please join the group and enjoy this great knowledge. And Spiritism is a fantastic tool for understanding all everything that happens within us and around us.
Thank you, Marcio. Greetings to JC, our brothers from the Philippines, who is also always with us. Thanks for being with us, JC. And Marcio, once again, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. And until next time,
Sure.
with that, I would just would like to invite everyone for a final prayer. And I'll have one small reminder for you all. So let us close our eyes and once again be thankful to God, our Creator, for the opportunity to receive these reminders of our immortal nature and the important tool that we all have, which is mediumship. We ask our protectors, spirits, or our guardian angels to be with us, to inspire us in the upcoming days. May they visit our homes and also help our family members, our friends, our neighbors. May we all have the strength and the encouragement and the faith and the joy for life that Jesus exemplified and taught us so much. We ask for those who were not able to join our humble meeting today, may they also receive the support, the assistance that they all need. Thank you, and so be it. And dear friends, before we end our meeting, just a friendly reminder. We know, it's a difficult time for everyone, but those who are able to help our center and make a small donation to help us with our expenses, you can simply take a screenshot or use your phone to take a picture of this little QR code here and go to our website for a donation. If you can, we would deeply appreciate. If you cannot, we appreciate you being here. Wish you a blessed week ahead. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.